What began with Adam and Eve's transgression blossomed into Cain's murderous ways, bearing fruit in Lamech's prideful violence, is now in full bloom throughout the entire human species. God looked down on the earth and realized that every propensity of the human mind was always evil. People had become completely corrupt, producing evil at the highest level possible. This bothered God and compelled him to act. In the midst of this corrupt and violent generation, Noah found favor with the Lord. Noah is the son of Lamech and ninth in descent from Adam. Genesis 6, 8-17. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish. Noah was unique because he walked with God. Similarly, in the midst of their own wicked generations, all believers should be exceptions. God revealed his plan to Noah. The only way out would be through the ark, which God instructed Noah to build. A flat-bottom vessel large enough to save both human and land animal life. Because God meant to start afresh, this judgment was not total. Noah was to carry 2 of every living thing into the ark so that their kinds would be spared. Genesis 6, 18-22. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. God distinguished between clean and unclean animals. Noah was to bring 7 pairs of clean animals with him rather than just 1. These were for Noah and his family to eat after departing the ark, as well as for Noah to sacrifice to God in worship, as we will learn. In all of this, Noah completely obeyed God, doing everything the Lord told him to do. The greatest purpose and desire of God's people should be obedience in the face of evil. Genesis 7, 1-7. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. For every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by 7s, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female, of fowls also of the air by 7s, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. The deluge finally began after all of the preparations and 120 years of God waiting for humans to repent. Only Noah, his sons, his wife, and his sons' spouses boarded the ark, while all other humans perished. Genesis 7, 8-12. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the floodwaters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and the rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. The water arrived. The outcome was a flood that lasted 40 days and 40 nights. Genesis 7:13-21. On that very day Noah and his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind. Everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth, and as the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits. Every living thing that moved on land perished: birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. The flood destroyed all land life, just as God had predicted. Only Noah and those in the ark with him remained. However, not a single drop of this judgment was any more comprehensive than it needed to be. Genesis 7:22-24. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out, people and animals, and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. Great was the sin, so also was God's just judgment. Sitting aboard that boat for 150 days, Noah's family served as a real reminder that the God who fiercely judges sin is also the God who compassionately releases us from it through our faith. Genesis 8:1-14. And God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged, and the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of 150 days the waters decreased. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent forth a raven, and it went forth to and fro, until the waters were dried up from off the earth. And he sent forth a dove from him, to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her feet, and she returned unto him to the ark. For the waters were on the face of the whole earth. And he put forth his hand, and took her, and brought her into him into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him at eventide, and lo, in her mouth an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet other 7 days, and sent forth the dove, and she returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, was the earth dry. Just as God did in the beginning, God brought the waters together to expose dry land. Genesis 8:15-22. Then God said to Noah, Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it. So Noah came out, together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives, all the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground, and all the birds. everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease." Noah's Ark eventually came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, ushering in a new era for humanity. God wanted Noah to be aware of the new beginning. The flood was more than just a cleansing of evil. It was an opportunity to restore God's original goal. As a result, we witness a replay of some of the blessings from Genesis chapter 1, as the animals and people were commissioned to spread across the globe and be prolific and multiply. Noah, overjoyed at the manner God had preserved him, made an offering of some of the clean animals. God was pleased when he saw Noah's worship and pledged never to curse the earth again with a flood. A new beginning. Genesis 9, 1-3. Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth, all the animals of the earth, all the birds of the sky, all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you with fear and terror. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables." God recommissioned Noah with the mandate to be fruitful, multiply, and populate the earth, which was originally given to Adam and Eve. It is critical to realize that the flood judgment was not God forsaking his original goals, but rather resetting the scene so that his original purposes might be carried out. For the first time in history, humanity was free to eat flesh. The sole restriction God imposed was that no meat with its lifeblood be consumed. Raw meat was forbidden because it symbolizes life. Leviticus 17:11. "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul." Genesis 9, 4-6. "But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. And for your lifeblood I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Whoever sheds human blood, by human shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind." God also added a new order concerning lifeblood, this time for people. Whoever sheds human blood, his blood will be shed by humans. This is the foundation for capital punishment, and it is based on the idea that God created mankind in his image. Humans uniquely represent God's image and nature. Hence, taking innocent human life is unthinkable and necessitates punishment, because murder is really an attack on God. Genesis 9, 7-11. "As for you, be fruitful and increase in number. Multiply on the earth and increase upon it. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth." God forged a new covenant with Noah, promising that never again will every creature be wiped out by floodwaters. 2 Peter 3:7. "By the same word the present heavens and earth are reserved for fire, being kept for the day of judgment and destruction of the ungodly." Genesis 9, 12-17. "And God said, This is the sign of the covenant that I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I bring clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures of every kind on the earth. So God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all life on the earth." God established his covenants with signs, physical pictures to encourage us and remind us of his faithfulness. Genesis 9:18-19. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the three sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. The rainbow is a sign from God. There are several lessons in the story of Noah. Lesson 1. It doesn't matter what others think. No matter what we tell ourselves, a part of us all wants to be accepted. We want to be able to relate and to live like others. We want to be able to function normally. Noah lived through a period of enormous corruption and sin, but he never succumbed to it. Other people as well as God saw him as unique. It was Noah's refusal to live the way others did that distinguished him and allowed God to choose him for this Herculean assignment. It made no difference what other people thought of Noah. It made a difference what God thought. Noah would have perished in the deluge if he had caved in and acted like everyone else. Instead, he ensured the survival of humans and many other animals by resisting such temptations. Lesson 2. Be faithful to God. Noah distinguished himself by remaining faithful to God and refusing to succumb to sin. It was not going to be easy to build an ark large enough to hold the broad range of animals Noah had to save. God required someone who would be trustworthy enough to persevere in the face of adversity when things were not always apparent. He wanted someone who could hear his voice and follow his lead. Noah was able to fulfill his vow because he was faithful to God. Lesson 3. None of us are immune to sin. Too often we focus solely on what Noah accomplished with the ark, forgetting that he was also a human being who made mistakes. When Noah eventually made it to land, he overflowed with joy and ended up sinning. Even the best of us make mistakes. Will God pardon us? True. God is extremely forgiving and lavishes us with grace. However, we must remember that we are all susceptible to sin. Therefore, we must be as strong and faithful as possible. God has sent messages to his people several times in the Bible, for example, through Angel Gabriel. To watch that video, click here.